For our first story, we take you to Cashtown, Pennsylvania, October 12th, 2019. In this quiet town stands the historic Cashtown Inn, its walls rich with history and whispers from the past. Built in 1797, this bed and breakfast has witnessed centuries of events, including serving as a headquarters for Confederate officers during the Gettysburg Campaign. Its storied past has also given rise to numerous accounts of paranormal activity, making it a focal point for ghost enthusiasts. In the fall of 2019, Emily, a young woman from England, arrived in the United States to work as an au pair. Eager to explore American history, she planned a weekend getaway to Gettysburg. Intrigued by the Cashtown Inn's rich background and its proximity to the historic battlefield, she booked a room, unaware of the inn's haunted reputation. Upon arrival, Emily was charmed by the inn's rustic ambience. The creaking wooden floors and antique furnishings transported her back in time. She was assigned Room 5, famously known as General Robert E. Lee's quarters during the Civil War. The innkeeper, a genial man in his late 50s, mentioned the room's historical significance but refrained from discussing its spectral associations. That evening, after a day exploring Gettysburg, Emily retired to her room. The weight of history was palpable, and a slight chill permeated the air. Dismissing it as the October weather, she settled into bed. As the clock struck midnight, she was awakened by a faint, rhythmic tapping. Groggy, she assumed it was the old plumbing and attempted to return to sleep. However, the tapping persisted, growing louder and more insistent. Sitting up, she scanned the room but found nothing amiss. The tapping seemed to emanate from the wall adjacent to the hallway. Gathering her courage, Emily approached the wall, pressing her ear against it. The tapping ceased abruptly, replaced by a muffled whispering. Straining to decipher the words, she felt a sudden rush of cold air, sending shivers down her spine. Hastily retreating to her bed, she pulled the covers tight, her heart pounding. The whispers faded, and an uneasy silence enveloped the room. The following morning, Emily mentioned the incident to the innkeeper, who offered a knowing smile. He shared that many guests had reported unexplained phenomena, particularly in Room 5. Tales of doorknobs rattling, disembodied footsteps and fleeting shadows were common. Some attributed these occurrences to the restless spirits of Confederate soldiers. Intrigued yet apprehensive, Emily decided to stay another night, hoping to experience more. She spent the day researching the inn's history, uncovering stories of soldiers seeking refuge and the inn's role as a field hospital. The accounts of amputations and lingering deaths added a somber tone to her curiosity. That night, sleep eluded her as she lay in bed, ears attuned to any sound. Hours passed without incident, and she began to relax, thinking the previous night's events were mere figments of her imagination. Just as she was drifting off, a loud crash jolted her awake. The small table by the window had toppled over, its lamp shattered on the floor. Breathing heavily, Emily scanned the room, but nothing seemed out of place. As she approached the mess, a sudden force pushed her, causing her to stumble. Panic set in as she realized she was not alone. Gathering her belongings, she fled the room, spending the remainder of the night in the lobby. The innkeeper found her at dawn, huddled on the sofa, eyes wide with fear. He listened intently as she recounted the night's events, nodding thoughtfully. He revealed that Room 5 had a history of intense activity, with some guests leaving in the middle of the night, unable to cope with the disturbances. He offered her another room, but Emily declined, deciding to cut her trip short. Years later, Emily still recalls her stay at the Cashtown Inn with a mixture of fascination and dread. The experience left her questioning the boundaries between the living and the dead, and she remains hesitant to explore places with haunted reputations. The Cashtown Inn continues to operate, welcoming guests who seek both history and the thrill of the unknown. Its legacy as a historic landmark intertwined with tales of the supernatural ensures that its stories, both documented and whispered, endure through the ages. For our second story, we take you to Savannah, Georgia, August 3rd, 2021. In this historic city where cobblestone streets whisper tales of the past, a young woman named Clara embarked on a journey, one that would change her perception of reality forever. Clara, a recent college graduate from the Midwest, had accepted a position as an au pair for the Harrington family. a prestigious household known for their ancestral lineage and opulent estate nestled in the heart of Savannah's historic district. The Harrington Estate, a grand antebellum mansion, stood as a testament to the city's rich history. With its towering columns, expansive gardens, and intricate ironwork, the mansion exuded an air of timeless elegance. However, beneath its polished exterior lay shadows of a bygone era, whispers of stories long forgotten. Clara arrived on a humid August afternoon, the air thick with the scent of magnolias and the distant rumble of an approaching storm. She was greeted by Mrs. Harrington, a poised woman in her late 40s, and introduced to the children, 8-year-old twins, Abigail and Benjamin. The children were polite, their manners reflecting their upbringing, but there was a certain melancholy in their eyes that Clara couldn't quite place. Her quarters were situated in the east wing of the mansion, a cosy suite with antique furnishings and a view overlooking the overgrown gardens. That evening, as Clara unpacked her belongings, she noticed a portrait hanging above the fireplace. A young woman in 19th century attire, her expression serene yet haunting. Intrigued, Clara made a mental note to inquire about the painting. Days turned into weeks, and Clara settled into her role, growing fond of Abigail and Benjamin. The children, though reserved, warmed up to her, sharing stories of their ancestors and the mansion's history. They spoke of secret passages, hidden rooms, and family legends that had been passed down through generations. One rainy afternoon, while exploring the attic in search of old toys, Clara stumbled upon a dusty journal bound in cracked leather. Opening it, she discovered it belonged to Lillian Harrington, a relative from the 1800s. The entries detailed Lillian's life, her joys, sorrows, and a forbidden love affair with a man deemed unsuitable by her family. The final entry spoke of heartbreak and a vow to remain in the mansion forever. That night, Clara was awakened by the soft melody of a piano echoing through the halls. Confused, she checked the time, 2 a.m. Remembering that the Harringtons owned a grand piano in the parlor, she assumed someone was playing. Donning her robe, she quietly made her way downstairs, the music growing louder with each step. As she entered the parlor, the music ceased abruptly. The room was empty, the piano lid closed, and a thick layer of dust indicating it hadn't been touched in years. A chill ran down Clara's spine as she felt an inexplicable presence, as if unseen eyes were watching her. Hastily, she retreated to her room, dismissing the incident as a vivid dream. However, the following nights brought more disturbances. Whispers outside her door, cold drafts in the hallway, and fleeting shadows at the edge of her vision. One evening, while tucking the children into bed, Abigail asked Clara if she had met the lady in the white dress. Puzzled, Clara inquired further. Benjamin chimed in, explaining that they often saw a woman in a white gown wandering the halls at night, humming softly. They believed it was Lillian, the woman from the portrait, searching for her lost love. Determined to uncover the truth, Clara delved into the mansion's history. She learned that Lillian Harrington had indeed lived there, and was rumoured to have taken her own life after her lover's tragic death. Locals whispered that her spirit lingered, bound by her unfulfilled desires. One stormy night, as lightning illuminated the sky and thunder rattled the windows, Clara was jolted awake by a blood-curdling scream. Rushing into the hallway, she found Abigail and Benjamin standing outside their room, eyes wide with terror. They pointed towards the staircase, where Clara saw a translucent figure descending. The silhouette of a woman in a flowing white dress, her features obscured by a veil. Frozen in place, Clara watched as the apparition paused at the bottom of the stairs, turned towards her, and lifted the veil. The face beneath was identical to the portrait, a visage of sorrow and longing. The figure extended a hand, as if pleading for help, before dissipating into the shadows. The encounter left Clara shaken, but also filled with a strange sense of empathy. She realized that Lillian's spirit was not malevolent, but rather trapped in a cycle of grief. Consulting with Mrs. Harrington, they decided to hold a memorial service for Lillian, acknowledging her pain and honoring her memory. The ceremony was intimate, attended by the family and a local priest. They recited prayers, lit candles, and placed Lillian's journal on the altar. As an offering, that night the mansion felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted. The disturbances ceased, and a sense of peace settled over the household. Clara continued her duties, her bond with the children strengthening. She often thought of Lillian, hoping that her soul had found the solace it sought. Her experience at the Harrington Estate left an indelible mark on Clara, a reminder of the thin veil between the living and the departed and the enduring power of love and loss. For our last story, we take you to Blackwood, South Australia, March 14th, 2018, a quiet town nestled in rolling hills where the past and present seem to intertwine. But on this night, something from the past refused to stay buried. In early 2018, a young German woman named Annika arrived in Blackwood to begin her role as an au pair for the Thompson family. The Thompsons resided in Blackwood Manor, a grand Victorian-era house that had stood for over a century. Its intricate architecture and sprawling gardens were a testament to its historical significance. Annika was captivated by the manor's charm, eager to immerse herself in its rich heritage. Upon her arrival, she was warmly welcomed by Mr. and Mrs. Thompson and introduced to their two children, Emily and Jack, aged 6 and 8, respectively. Her quarters were in a renovated section of the attic, a cozy space with a small window overlooking the dense woods that bordered the property. From her window, Annika often observed the sun setting behind the trees, casting long shadows that seemed to dance with the evening breeze. As weeks passed, Annika grew accustomed to her duties and the family's routines. However, she couldn't shake an unsettling feeling that seemed to pervade the manor. At night, she often heard faint whispers and soft footsteps echoing through the hallways, sounds she initially attributed to the creaks and groans of the old house settling. One evening, while reading a bedtime story to Emily and Jack, the children mentioned the lady in the walls. Curious, Annika asked them to elaborate. They described seeing a shadowy figure of a woman who would appear at night, her presence accompanied by a soft, humming lullaby. The children seemed unfazed, treating it as a normal occurrence. Intrigued and slightly unnerved, Annika decided to investigate further. She approached Mrs. Thompson, who hesitated before sharing the manor's history. Decades ago, the house had belonged to the Blackwood family. Their youngest daughter, Eliza, had disappeared mysteriously at the age of 16. Despite extensive searches, she was never found, and it was rumored that her spirit still lingered within the manor, searching for solace. That night, Annika found it difficult to sleep, her mind racing with thoughts of Eliza. As the clock struck midnight, she was jolted awake by the sound of soft humming. Heart-pounding, she listened intently, recognizing the melody as the same lullaby the children had mentioned. Gathering her courage, she followed the sound down the dimly lit hallway, leading her to a small door she hadn't noticed before. The door creaked open to reveal a narrow staircase descending into darkness. With trembling hands, Annika descended the stairs, the humming growing louder with each step. She reached a cold, damp basement cluttered with old furniture and cobwebs. In the corner, illuminated by the faint glow of her flashlight, stood a figure, a translucent young woman in a white dress, her eyes filled with sorrow. Frozen in place, Annika watched as the apparition turned towards her, mouthing the words, "Help me." Before Annika could react, the figure vanished, leaving her alone in the oppressive silence of the basement. Shaken, she hurried back upstairs, her mind struggling to comprehend what she had witnessed. The following day, Annika confided in Mr. Thompson about her experience. He listened thoughtfully before revealing that he had also encountered the apparition shortly after they had moved in, but had chosen to keep it to himself to avoid alarming his family. Together they decided to research Eliza's disappearance, hoping to uncover clues that might explain her restless spirit. They scoured old newspapers, library archives, and spoke with longtime residents of Blackwood. Their investigation led them to a chilling discovery. Eliza had been in a secret relationship with a servant boy from the manor, a union forbidden by her family. When her father discovered the affair, he flew into a rage, and it was rumored that in his fury he had locked Eliza in the basement as punishment. However, a fire had broken out in the manor shortly after, and in the chaos Eliza was forgotten, left to perish in the flames. Her body was never recovered, and her father, consumed by guilt, took his own life shortly after. Armed with this knowledge, Annika and the Thompsons organized a memorial service for Eliza, inviting the townspeople to join in honoring her memory. They hoped that acknowledging her tragic fate would bring peace to her tormented spirit. That evening, as candles flickered and a soft hymn filled the air, Annika felt a gentle breeze brush past her, accompanied by a faint whisper, "Thank you." From that night on, the manor was free from unexplained disturbances. The whispers ceased, the footsteps vanished, and the children no longer spoke of the lady in the walls. Annika remained with the Thompsons for another year, her bond with the family strengthening, yet the memory of Eliza's sorrowful eyes lingered, a poignant reminder of the manor's haunted past. The experience left an indelible mark on Annika, deepening her appreciation for the histories that dwell within old houses and the restless souls that sometimes accompany them. An au pair job should be simple, taking care of children, living in a new home, exploring a new place. But sometimes the homes are filled with more than just memories, a restless spirit watching from the walls, a forgotten tragedy that refuses to be buried, a whisper in the dark calling a name that should have been forgotten. These weren't just stories, they actually happened. And if they happened to them, maybe the next time you hear footsteps when no one is there or a door creaks open on its own, you won't be so quick to dismiss it. If you enjoyed these terrifying true stories, share and subscribe to The Sixth Frequency. And don't forget to hit the bell icon, because sometimes the past isn't ready to let go. See you in the next one if you make it.